Do you need a wireframe for your Squarespace website? I'm going to get into that. I'm going to talk about what are wireframes, what are they really for. I'm going to show you how I generate wireframes in Squarespace when necessary, and give you some tips and tricks on how to place that and how to generate one. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of wireframes I've created in Squarespace, and I'm going to build one. This one's going to take a few minutes, but I think it's going to be worthwhile if you need to wireframe. Need being the key word here, because wireframes, what are they for? They're for getting multiple stakeholders on the same page at the same time. It's about shared understanding. If it's just you and your designer, or just you and your client, you and one other stakeholder, you probably don't need a wireframe. It's pretty easy to make changes. There won't be a lot of things coming in late, and there won't be a lot of stakeholders who all have different fiefdoms or amounts of influence when it comes to the operation or the organization. So that's when a wireframe really comes in handy. When you need to play some defense that, because of a project, may have fits and starts, it's good to not allow someone to back up all the way to the beginning. It's nice to say, hey, you saw this in the wireframe, you approved it. So what we're really changing here is a little more fundamental, and I need us to be on the same page with that. Wireframes, that's defensive. They do come in handy for that. But if you're in an organization and there are multiple departments, there's a sales team, there's a leadership team, there are different product teams, you got a marketing team, you got a search team. Yes, wireframes can really be helpful to make sure that everybody's getting the amount of real estate they think they should be getting, and that you're able to represent their content generally in the right way. The trick with a wireframe is, and there are a couple, but the first trick with a wireframe, don't use real content. People will get spun out on it, and then you're stuck. You're talking about the content instead of the real estate, because look at it this way. When a developer builds an entire neighborhood, a cul-de-sac full of homes, and they're trying to get the permits approved, they rarely show photos of the actual homes. They're not going to show you which faucet is going on which sink in each home. They're just going to show you the plots of land. They're going to show you how big those plots are. And they're going to talk acreage. They're going to talk all of the different technical things from a civic standpoint, like where the curbing is and how the plumbing is going to work and how drainage works and green space. They're going to talk at a high level about the project and everything going into each zone of that project. And that is all a wireframe is. And it's not just for websites. I've created wireframes for print collateral, for catalogs, for all kinds of different types of media, even simple things like an outdoor billboard or a bus station ad. Making sure that there's a shared understanding and only allowing the team to go backwards so far really helps with production when it comes to a longer time frame or multiple stakeholders. Now, let's get into actual wireframing and what they look like. You can do it in Figma. You can do it in Adobe XD if that still exists. You can do it in Canva. Really, a wireframe is just that. It's a series of lines, gray boxes, meta content like headline goes here, that type of thing. So and I'm going to share my browser here. This is just a very, very generic one that I put together a while back in a conversation I had with a group of other designers. And if working in a graphic design app, or because you can do this in any app, you can do this in PowerPoint or Keynote. You can do this in Canva, like I said. You can do this in graphic design. And if you just want to move really fast and you're good at Figma, then just build them in Figma. That's fine. What I like about wireframing in Squarespace when I have to do wireframes is that it's easy to just change the assets out to the actual copy and the images. There's no redundant work. I do not do wireframes in a third-party tool like Figma or XD or Canva, because to me, it's completely redundant. We're just doing double work here. It can be done in the actual site that we're going to use. So why duplicate efforts? Because anything you show someone in a third-party graphic app that doesn't have the same settings from a margin and overall width standpoint or default padding, text size, all those things, that all changes when you build it onto a platform. And that's not a Squarespace issue. That's any platform. The core input has to have the same settings for you to really nail pixel to pixel accuracy. So from a wireframe standpoint, and all I've done here is pull up this, I'm in the top of a website I've logged into. I can hit pages and you can see these pages are here. This is a simple wireframe where we say, hey, I want a hero photo up in the top, and let's agree that we're going to have headline text, product 1, 2, and 3, some about us text, and our footer in general. Now, this is a very small, short homepage for a very simple brand, but the same thing would hold true for the About Us page. Now we would have an idea of where we want to place the photo, where we're going to place the header text, and where we're going to put copy and our team images. And you can have a conversation about how collaborative it is or how many FAQs you need. And the same thing with the Contact Us page. Is where's the form go? Do we get a map? Are we going to put an FAQ on there? Anything that you want to add to the website, you want to put in the wireframe. But how do these wireframes come together? And I'm going to show you that. One thing I really value about wireframing in Squarespace, not only because it is the actual platform we're going to publish with, and all you have to do is swap out the assets for the real assets, that's really nice. But it's already going to be mobile responsive, and all of the URLs are already built out. Like you can just continue adding content, and it's really nice. It's kind of a luxury, if I'm being honest. So let's do a thing where we have an alternate home page, right? So I'm gonna pick blank page here. You may not be able to pick a blank page. You may not be a circle member, and what you'll see here is page layouts, and you're going to get this modal right here. You can pick any general page for this new home page that we're going to wireframe here. I'll pick this one. As you can see, it just says general 2, and it's got images that are obviously, let's work with a brand here. Let's imagine that this is something of a enterprise software company, okay? This would probably, unless they had a deep brand metaphor, not be appropriate imagery at all. So that's fine. You can hit edit and add a section here. Let's add a blank section. We can do that. Or we can delete that section, remove. We could just come in here and just start deleting all of the things. Hit edit section, remove this background image, change this color to white, and boom, you've got a blank section. It took me a second. So let me delete this section and delete this section. We'll leave the footer now. It doesn't really matter. Now we just have a blank section, and you can turn on your grid if that's helpful by right clicking. I hit Control on my Mac keyboard to turn the grid on and off, show and hide the grid. That helps me when I'm wireframing a lot. It's nice to know generally how much space we have to work with, because when you're seeing this grid, anything off grid is going to be outside of the margins of the column of what would be considered inset content here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I add a text block, so it says right here, this is my text block. You can drag this around in Squarespace and put it anywhere you want, and it's just going to align with these grids. So you can't put it in a place where it's not aligned with grids, which is nice. It's a safe zone to work in. But there are also enough columns and rows that you're able to really get articulate and detailed with your content and the spacing in the content. Now, if I move this off to the side, you can see it locks to that edge over there. And you can have content that is just off grid entirely, and it will stay over there. You can also have it be halfway across the screen, make that nice and wide, and off to the edge. Now that's going to be off to the edge regardless of the resolution of the user ultimately that's viewing the website, which is something to keep in mind. That's not what you came here for, but I'm explaining it because one thing I like to do here is say heading 1. I want to show and H1, this would be called an H1 in SEO parlance. And the reason why that's important is because both search engines like Google and AI bots like the ones that come in from ChatGPT or Claude or something, they're looking for the semantics, what code, and this is going to give you that H1 tag is what they would call it in code. So if we want a heading 1, and I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to want a heading 2. And like I said, we're wireframing, so this is generic content. I don't know ultimately who's going to control this. Maybe I do know who's going to control this copy. Probably someone on the marketing team or the owner of the company. That's totally common. Now here's a cool trick I want to show you because I said don't use real copy. Using real copy is an absolute minefield. As soon as you use real branded company copy, people will get spun out and say, that's not what we would put in there. They're going to start critiquing the copy. And for good reason. If the copy is not right, it should be part of the critique. But you lose the narrative of the broader conversation you're trying to have about the wireframe and the overall communication strategy for the brand. So using real copy is going to be detrimental to the productivity of a wireframe. It undermines the entire initiative. So what do you put in here? Commonly, as a designer, we have something called lorem ipsum. If you're unfamiliar, it's basically gibberish text, classically used in advertising. I think it's been around since the 1950s or something like that. I don't know the actual history. You can fact check me and leave that down in the comments. That's fine. But with AI copywriting here inside of Squarespace, when I place my cursor inside of this right here box, you see these 3 circles right here. I'll hit that and say paragraph. It says write a paragraph about. Let's delete the about and write a paragraph of lorem ipsum. I might have misspelled it, but it's going to know what I mean. I'm going to hit enter and it's going to give me a paragraph of lorem ipsum text. And another thing I like to do is select all and copy, and now that's on my clipboard. It's pretty handy. So this is going to be introductory text. This may be more than we're asking this design to deliver. And then we need a button of some sort. We want to show what buttons can and or should look like in this brand. And certainly don't want it to be that color. But what's our book a demo? We said this was a software company, right? Enterprise software. And what else do we want in this column? I'm going to put text. And ultimately, I think this is an image, but I think software companies do like certifications. And I'm going to center this both vertically and horizontally. They like certifications. Certifications go a long way to proof of expertise. And if this is an enterprise company, enterprise software company, they're going to want certifications on here. So I'm going to duplicate this a couple of times and change this out to 2, change this out to 3. And now we've got I don't love the color of that button. That's easy to fix. Hit exit here and go over to the styles. And we want to go with a completely monochromatic gray theme here. So we're going to call this Home Alt 1. Copy this, general, paste this. So the navigation title, the page title, and the URL slug are all the same. Look, when they pick, when the team has decided which homepage they actually want, then we can just change all of this. That's easy to do. So home alt 1, home alt 2. So we're working in this one, home alt 1. I'm going to hit edit again, and let's go back in because no homepage hero is complete. without some kind of image. And you could put an image if you have a shell image in here or a shim or anything like that. Like you can browse stock images, and we saw that there were stock images on here, or if you've got brand images that already exist. But ultimately, if we want to put images in here, I'm not going to use the image because we don't want to place a real image in here. I'm going to use a shape block because it gives me a few options. A shape block will allow me to change this background color. And I know I'm moving pretty fast here, but work with me. And that's going to allow me to make it really obvious that this is something. Now, we could use a text block as well. A text block is going to do the same thing. And when, if this is the design that's approved, we'll just come in here and edit it. I'm going to vertically and horizontally align this text to say image. Wow, so cryptic. But if I hit this bucket and go to background and put a corner radius on here, because that would be part of the brand, then we have that all set. So let's duplicate this because the design I want to show here is something of a old school sort of wall, Pinterest style wall here. So image and duplicate this image, and there. Now we've created a hero with some images, and add a section or duplicate this section. Oh, what did he just do? Look, if we duplicate this section, I can delete all this content. Delete, 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 delete this, delete the button, keep the lorem ipsum text, keep the H2, delete the H1, and delete this. Say we want this to be testimonials, and we want to put a client testimonial, customer video. Whoa, what did he just do? He just put a video on there. So now this could be our testimonial title. And we've got our lorem ipsum copy there. That took all of about 60 seconds. And if you want to make the video thing more obvious, you can go download some kind of image shim. You can also put a shape on here. I think we have a triangle, and if that's a different color, let me go in here and see if we have a triangle shape. We do, but it doesn't point in the right direction, so never mind. Delete it. So that would just be our video. And in general, maybe we want shorter margins on this. Now I'm going to duplicate this section. We're doing a lot of duplicating here. This would be more validation. Software company is going to say, hey, we want to show a wall, customer logo, of customer logos. Well, we can do that. And one of the things I'm going to hit shift, and you can duplicate multiple items, multiple objects in here. One of the things you can have a conversation about with other stakeholders or clients, or whomever you're collaborating with, would be whether or not this is interactive in some way. If it's a scrolling event or a mouse over event, if it's always animating, if it does something on hover, whatever you want to do. But for now, we just want to say, yes, we acknowledge that this page needs logos. Let me duplicate this section again and select a bunch of these and delete and stretch this out by selecting 2 of them. And this is going to be like our deep link to, say, a software company probably has 2 different sales or target markets, like target audiences, we'll say, avatars. What else are they called? Ideal client profile. This is going to be for dealers, maybe. And this one's going to be for, say, lenders, like anybody who, for dealers, for, let's say, leaders. I don't know. So give me a little bit of this lorem ipsum copy here. And we're going to put that in, hit enter, and center all this copy. center all this copy and make this an H3, make this an H3. The idea here isn't, say, design accuracy. The idea here with a wireframe is to get the concept of what content goes where, so you can have that conversation next. That's sort of the that's sort of the idea here. So now let's do a thing where we have we introduce the products, the actual products and services that a software company would deliver on. So I'll duplicate this and delete it. Now for this, let's center it and duplicate it. I'm going to need that in a moment, but I want to get rid of this background because this is just going to be copy. And we're going to go H2 with that one and H4 with this one because we want those to be headers and we want to be able to have that conversation. Now with this, we want to say product 1. And this is going to be I don't know what I hit there. Product 1, hit enter. No, let's say product title. We said, because we said testimonial title above. Product title, and here we go. I want to double click that and make that centered. And we will list the company's products here and put those in a grid and deep link them. And let's make those a different size than the ones we use for the logos above, if you recall, the customer logo. I'm going to make these bigger because who doesn't love talking about themselves and their products? Every brand does. Okay, so now we've got product 1, 2, 3, and product 4. Now you got 5, you can go 5 wide, 3 wide, whatever works, however many you've got. And then let's put in, I want to do a thing where I duplicate this section. And then I'm going to hit this down arrow and move it down on the page here. And this is going to be helpful for us to do sort of the last, this is a home page, which is basically a vertical edition of the nav bar, but with a little more context. It's still an index of the content that can be found in more detail deeper on the website. It's really all a home page is. We can pretend it's as fancy as we want to, but that's really all it is. Let me hit form and put a contact form in here. Look, if you just want a button that links to the contact us page, that's fine. This is a little tall and I don't want, the business is not usually going to allow a subject line. So let's just get rid of that. And this would be contact us. I'm going to give this form a background color because I think it matches, light box. That's a background. That's the one I wanted to hit. I think it matches the theme of what we've been doing from a visual standpoint here with the wireframe. And we want contact title. And then if you want to visit us, there should be sort of a link. You know what else we want to put down here is I'm going to copy, select all these and I hit copy on my keyboard, come down here and hit paste and remind everyone of our amazing certifications that this software company has. And that's it. I've made a wireframe. And now when I share this out with anyone that is a stakeholder on the team, they're going to have an understanding of what all goes on this wireframe. And if it's a software company like this, they are primarily going to be concerned about the desktop view, but there is also a mobile view here, and it's going to honk right from the get because none of this stuff was manipulated to be in the right order because I had built columns. But it's easy to just drag these around and make them the right height and width. Generally, you're going to want your heading and your heading 2 and your images to be similar to how you had them on the desktop. laid out like this. And then we're going to want our sort of more detailed information and our book a demo button. And then we want our certs under the button. That's a good place for those because it's unintrusive and it doesn't push the action that we actually want a viewer to take down any further than is necessary. So make those the same width. All right, now I'm just playing. So you would do the same thing here. Obviously a video would be taller and these logos would be in a larger grid. So we would move those to be too wide and share this out with the team and let them know that the wireframe is ready for them to review and they should take a look at it and make sure that their, part of the business is being represented well. And we definitely want the certs under the form on this. Oops, look to the side there. We want these certs to be like this here. Now we have a wireframe where you can have a productive conversation. Like I said, I guess I'm repeating myself, but if they want to see the mobile view, it's already there. This is something, the mobile view is something that is really hard to do with a graphic design app like Figma or Adobe or something like that, Photoshop. So with this, it's really easy to show how it would lay out and behave. And that just shows you how I build a wireframe really quickly. I mean, I said really quickly. We're like 25 minutes into this video. I hope this was helpful. This was a longer how-to than usual, but I feel like wireframes are something that if you need them, it's going to be really helpful. I don't even expect this video to get a lot of views because I don't think DIYers, people who went to Squarespace or any platform really to make their own website because they couldn't afford to hire, some fancy designer, they're not wireframing. That you can if you want to share out the idea overall, the layout of the content with other stakeholders when maybe you have business partners or spouse or somebody that's like, I want to see what you're putting in there first before you go and write anything, then a wireframe is going to be the way to go. If you're a designer and you have a client who has, like I said, multiple departments and everybody's going to have, they're going to have some cheese to place on the tray, then you definitely will find that wireframes are a pretty good exercise when it comes to that. So I hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe. You want more how-to tips. If you want them delivered straight to your inbox, there's going to be a link in the description below for that. So I super appreciate you and have a good time wireframing, man. Have a good time.